a very, very important subject again about a key set of stakeholders in our ecosystem, our teachers. This session is titled The Changing Life of the Teacher, Competencies and Careers. And it will be moderated by Ramya Venkatraman, who is founder and CEO of the Center for Teacher Accreditation, CENTA, one of the partners for this conference. Ramya was recently awarded as one of 15 women transforming India by Niti Aayog and the United Nations. She's also been recognized by the Economic Times, Education World, and others. Ramya was with McKinsey and Company for 15 years before founding CENTA, and she has worked across India, Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America. Ramya holds a BTech from IIT Delhi and an MBA from IIM Calcutta. She continues to bring her broad professional experience to her work in education. Ramya, it is wonderful to have you with us to moderate a session on which you have so much in-depth knowledge. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ali. Wonderful to be here and wonderful to be part of this conference. It's quite amazing to see the participation here. So on this panel today, more than me, we have four eminent panelists, and I'm just going to introduce them one by one, and will request all of them to come on the video. So we have with us Mr. Mansoor Ali Khan, who is trustee and treasurer of KKECT, the trust that runs the DPS group of schools in Bangalore and Mysore. Mansoor is also the founder of School of India and co-founder of publishing company Think CIQ. He's also the General Secretary of the Association of Independent CBSE Schools of Karnataka. Thank you very much for being with us today, Mansoor.
Thanks. Thank you. It's a pleasure to participate in this webinar and with all the eminent panelists and Ramya and all of you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Jonali Das, who is principal and trustee of Modern English School at Kamrup near Guwahati, Assam. Jonali has a strong reputation as school administrator as well as teacher coach on pedagogical methods, lesson planning, etc. She holds a master's in educational leadership and administration from University of Southampton. So you will also notice that while Mansoor runs a set of schools in a tier 1 city like Bangalore and also, of course, Mysore, Jonali brings the experience of running a school in a smaller location, like in and around Guwahati. So welcome, Jonali. Thank you very much for being with us today. I think you will need to put on.
I'm working on the settings part. So hello, everyone. Hello.
Sure. We'll just wait for your video to turn on. Meanwhile, I'll just quickly introduce Pramod Tripathi. Pramod is joining us today from Singapore, and he is the Director of Academics at Global Indian International Schools, which is based in Singapore and present in multiple countries, including India. Pramod has had a long career in education and served at many reputed school groups, including Greenwood High, GEMS, and others. Pramod has been honored among the most influential 100 professionals of 2016 and also the most promising educationist of the year. Welcome, Pramod, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Ramya. Thanks, organizer. It's indeed a pleasure to be part of this discussion.
And finally, we have Neha Khanna, who in many ways represents the topic of this panel. Neha is a maths teacher at Sunbeam School in Varanasi. And she's also a winner in multiple editions of CENTA Teaching Professionals Olympiad, the annual competition for teachers. She was in the top 100 national ranks in 2019 and also the city topper of Varanasi. She also holds 4 level 2 micro-credentials of CENTA, which well, I can assure you is very tough to get through. Neha did her B.Ed focused on secondary education and teaching from Indira Gandhi National Open University. So with a long-standing experience in teaching, Neha, look forward to your inputs on this panel on teachers. Could we have both Neha and Janali switching on your video?
Yeah. I hope that it will come, but then please start. I will continue with this part. Please start.
Okay, okay. So while you're switching on your video, look forward to your participation in any case. So we are going to keep this panel entirely as a conversation. So we will ask the panelists a series of questions. I will ask some from my side, and I will ask some from the audience's side. There were multiple comments just before this on the Q&A that my question did not get answered. Unfortunately, in a given time frame, I think panelists are able to answer only a certain number of questions. So we'll try to cover as many questions as we can, but may not be able to cover all of them. So that's just an expectation I'm setting up front. So let me start maybe with you, Mansoor. As someone who is heading a group of schools and the current situation that is going on, right now, I'm sure like a lot of other schools, you also have a bunch of online classes going on, at least in some of the grades, and at least a survey by CENTA shows that the amount of online teaching has increased almost 4x in the last 1.5 months. So you probably have some online classes going on. Now, obviously, that's an immediate thing that schools have come to. When you look 6 months out, 6 to 9 months out, what do you foresee as this mix? So do you envisage that things will be entirely where they were, back to fully physical school? Do you envisage some degree of the online aspect continuing heavily, moderately? How do you envisage it? And I'll come to you, Pramod, with the same question from an international viewpoint.
Yeah. When in March, when this whole pandemic situation started to, we started to realize that in India also that this is spreading and the pandemic situations come, and when the schools were closed. So that time itself, we were quite certain and sure that online will be one of the mechanisms where we will have to use, because once the schools didn't open for the first 2 weeks after the lockdown, the exams were in session and everything came to a standstill. So what's happened as far as online teaching is concerned, initially there was hesitancy, like the parents were very skeptical whether it is possible. Then we had teachers, some teachers were adapted to technology and they were proactive in online teaching, but we had to have another set of teachers who had to given more effort towards the online teaching platform, learn, unlearn. And then finally, I think most of the private schools have got the act together. But then again, the parents came on board. Now, I think even in parents, and largely initially there was a little, even the governments were skeptical whether if online classes can go on. Now, I think the governments also have realized that online classes are here to stay for a while. And what I foresee in the future, that this will be a hybrid model where we can't totally in future going forward. We may have some teachers who are fantastic in maths in one location and we can use their ability in another location or class in another location, and maybe reach out to more students as well, and have, because once what this whole thing has shown, that the power of online teaching has actually unfolded now, because this was always there from last 5-6 years. Online teaching, online classes were there, but always it was thought online teaching may not be feasible. But today, yes, definitely it's not a replacement of the class teacher or the physical classroom, but it adds on an additional important tool for the future, and it empowers the teacher. For example, sometimes if you want to have a remedial class, or you want to have a special class where children can't come, and those who are interested can definitely. So I foresee this model as a hybrid model going forward. And I would like to state a very small example, the power of online teaching. We have a school in a taluk headquarter, which is around 45 kilometers from Mysore city. We have been able to use our online model and run in a rural sector and a setup online classes. So going forward, if you use the potential of online classes and have a good mix of this hybrid model, we would be able to reach out to a large extent of rural India, and we can maximize our teachers' capabilities and teaching capabilities going forward. But it has to be infrastructure will be a challenge. We've also had a challenge in urban sectors for infrastructure as far as the bandwidth is concerned or the equipment is concerned. So there are challenges, but exciting times ahead as well.
Very interesting. And Mansoor, I was not aware of your rural school, so that's it's news to me also. And I think some of us should understand more about it to get learnings for the country more broadly, because I think that's a whole sector out there which, in some ways, we are not getting into too deeply today. But I think many of us are working in that space also, and would love to get some learnings later. So that's amazing. But overall, you're foreseeing more of a hybrid model, and love to hear from Pramod. Pramod, I think both from an international standpoint, and also do you see a difference across countries? Because you see the Singapore, the situation, you see India, you see UAE. I think you have schools in Russia. So do you see a difference across countries in how this will play out 6 to 9 months out?
Yes, the situation is it's a new kind of experience for the whole world. No one expected that the world will come to a standstill. Education institutions, schools were actually not prepared. All institutions were in their comfort zone. They were very happy teaching in the classroom with the limited number of students. There were definitely certain enthusiast people, those who have been using technology to accelerate learning, to reach out to people, but then it was just a handful, even in the reputed organization. All of a sudden, 2 months back, we were forced. It's like that you don't know swimming, but then you're thrown into a swimming pool. But fortunately, I'm happy to share that all over the world, not alone in India or into one country, everywhere the teaching community have learned the new skills in a very short period of time. And people manage to, maybe there may be a variation in terms of these specializations, but then definitely every organization has switched to an online mode of learning in a short period of time. Now, since these skills are already learned, and teachers have enjoyed that through this method, also they can teach to a larger community. And there was a lot of learning happening. And that's why we foresee that, yes, the blended learning model, the blended learning model, what Mansoor sir has said about a hybrid model, that will continue for some period of time. Even if if we open up, even if the organization, the schools are opening up, Bangalore says that we'll open a school, some other Singapore schools are opening from next week. But still, to some extent now, this will continue even along with the face-to-face, will have a use of technology towards evening, towards collaborative learning, towards project-based learning. These tools which were there, which all educationists know, but it was not in a mega use, that will be used now.
Great, great. No, in fact, you sort of answered what I was going to interrupt you with, which is what are some of those areas where you see the use continuing? Because one of the Q&A questions right now was, can you elaborate on the hybrid model? So I think you covered that to some extent. And with that, let me bring Jonali into the conversation. Jonali, you come from a sort of tier 2 location. And where connectivity might be a bigger challenge, the community you're working with may not, may have even lesser access to devices, etc. And of course, you are a leading private school in your geography. I mean, you're not. So what I'm saying is that you are still a leading private school. You're not exactly serving low-income children, etc. So in the context which you are in, where we do have a lot of representation of schools of your type in this conference, what is the path forward that you visualize 6 to 9 months out?
Thank you, Ramaya. Firstly, what I feel is that offline and online. Now we were in offline. Now we are in online. Now in online mode, there are some loopholes. First thing is about the connectivity that is not happening everywhere, and secondly, engagement of the students, particularly from the lower class. Suppose from class nursery to class 5. These fraction of students, these people are really suffering in terms of learning. What I have found out from the parents, almost all the schools are managing through WhatsApp, then Zoom, and then Google Classroom, and any other media that they are trying to get it. Now, question is how far they can give it. If you think that, okay, let me give you an example. The example is, suppose I am teaching a lesson, and while teaching a lesson, what kind of methodology do I need to adapt that the students will learn? Think in terms of the students. When we think in terms of the students are getting recorded videos. They are getting some very good videos, say suppose from Khan Academy, say suppose from BBC, and then naturally they are also getting worksheets, they are also getting books. But then what they are not getting, what that thing, that magic that they are not getting, they must get the touch, the emotional touch, the relationship, the the empathy, the love and the respect from the teachers. That is fully missing. So the emotional side is fully missing. Number one. Number two, meeting friends is they are simply they don't like that they will not meet their friends, because friends form a very important part in their life. When I talk with my students, I find that they are really missing their teachers and friends. Once they say that I hate school, but today they are just asking me when the school will reopen. So we are in a very middle position. To be very frank, all the schools, they are trying to do it online. So online is not a problem. But the problem is, what are the learning gaps that we are creating? Suppose you are teaching a particular concept, you have learned the basic outlines of the concept, but when you go to the deeper of the concept, then you do not get the whole idea of the concept, because lots of things which are which cannot be touched in the video. If I'm giving a recorded video, then I'm not getting my teacher. Now again, if I'm going to Zoom meet, suppose today we are in the Zoom meet. So when one person is saying, then another person has to switch off the and the mute the this audio, and that creates a problem, because when I am taking 40 students as class and I am explaining as something, and in the middle some students wants to ask some questions, they can't do it because you have to mute the audio, and that is the main trouble while going for online. Even if in our case also, when I am talking, anybody, it's very difficult to engage. So engagement is not happening. Now, what is happening then? What is happening? If nothing is happening, then something is definitely happening, right? So that I would like to, say about it. First thing is that teachers were busy with taking only in the classrooms. Now they do know that there are lots of good videos, there are lots of good learning materials, and there are lots of companies, there are lots of supportive groups that can actually support the entire learning system. So they have understood. Secondly, also they have understood that if they can teach offline, that means in school, they can also start doing the online classes. So suppose, for example, tuition. Now they can take the tuition. Just imagine that if I would open a tuition hall, or suppose a coaching institute, for example, LN. Now LN has not stopped classes. LN has not stopped classes. They have started the coaching institute fully on full chain. Now there are lots of tuition house which is available in entire India to teach maths and science, where coaching, the online classes of tuition will be happening. So Now the tuition teachers, I can borrow a very well-educated teacher. If I want to bring I want to open a business that is a tuition business. What I need to do? Simply, I need to, connect best of the best teachers, and in the evening we can go for online and I can start my business. So now I think there will be one more new concept will be coming, where tuition teachers will be going online, and that will not be stopped. Secondly, even if the classroom is going on, I think even if the classroom is going on, what will happen? Offline and online will continue. So there is always the advantage and disadvantage. I think we are advantageous to some extent, but yes, it is true that school should be open because students are suffering a lot. Thank you.
Sure. No, that's a very, very good detailed picture of what you are facing and how this is likely to play out 6 months, 9 months down the line. And with that, I want to get by the way, there are a few questions I'm seeing in the chat and the Q&A related to fee collection of private schools by Sandeep Bhattacharya and others. And I just want to say that there is a panel later in the day, which is specifically focusing on regulations and various stakeholders in the regulatory ecosystem. So we will avoid touching upon that in this panel, given the limited time. But coming back to the teacher, so one of the questions I'm seeing, and it's been a question in my mind also, is that in this online mode, teachers seem to be working much harder than before. And as I'm hearing each of you talking about a blended model 6 to 9 months down the line, where there are some physical classes, there is some online project-based learning, etc., as Pramod said, or there are certain kinds of assignments happening online, as Jonali, each of you said. How do you see the life of the teacher in terms of drawing boundaries between work life and personal life? And with that, I want to bring in Neha. You are operating as a teacher in this environment right now. So how are you seeing what are the best practices for maintaining those boundaries? And would also appreciate any of Mansoor and Pramod adding to it after Neha.
Right. Thanks, Ramya, for the question. I've been working as a teacher, so I would be speaking out of my own personal experience. I think when you talk about drawing a boundary between the work life and your private life, the best thing to do is be well organized. Your time management and your organization skills, I think, play the most important role. If you're well organized, you're pre-planned, I think you would be able to make time for everything that you want to do. It all depends on your skills, your competencies, and like we have a lot of resources available as of now. But I think more than the resources, it's about how resourceful you are. So I think that's very, very important, when I'm mentioning being resourceful, it's a mindset beautifully combined with a skill set, right? So it's the mindset of not looking at things as just a problem and always trying to find a solution to it. So if you think this is the situation, instead of just worrying about what can be done, we should look for the solutions and then work towards it. Of course, along with the skills. Now, with the huge plethora of resources that we have, what we first need to do is select the right resources, right? Prioritize things. Prioritizing is extremely important. If you want to maintain the perfect balance, you need to prioritize things correctly. You need to plan well. You need to organize everything, whether it's your work or the things that you need to do in your private life. If you're doing all of this and then executing it the way you have planned it, just planning and organizing is not enough. You have to make sure that you execute it well. Right? If you're doing it properly, I think it shouldn't be a problem because we've been doing it for so long. And honestly, I haven't really faced any problem, nor have my colleagues faced any such problems, because we are planning, we are organizing, we are pre-deciding how we want to do it, and we are dividing our work and private life accordingly. So I don't think that that's too much of a pressure, and then we can beautifully deal with it.
No, that's a very, very positive and helpful answer, Neha. And from a school management standpoint, Mansoor and Pramod, any steps that you are taking to make sure that you're drawing boundary? Pramod, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so Neha is kind enough to say that the things are good, but then what from the management point of view, I feel that teachers are working way beyond what they were doing into a regular days. Because it's not that just they can teach what they know or what they have taught so many years. This is a new format which has come all of a sudden. So learning is from all sources. They have to re-prepare things which are more conducive for online learning. So teachers are actually using a lot of their personal time in organizing the next day's learning. No doubt the material is there, but then they have to reorganize, plan it well. So we are constantly in touch with our staff members. I personally talk to a lot of people every day and motivate them, encourage them, because I know that they are doing a dual roles. I mean, all of us know that in schools education, K-12 is dominated by the female members, and they have a responsibility of their family also. Under lockdown, everyone is together. So they have a home life, which responsibility, which they have to do it at the same time. They want to take out those 6 to 7 hours where they have to teach, and then they need to take out a couple of hours where they need to prepare for the next day. So the time duration in terms of the teachers are really stretched.
And just if I may ask a follow-on question, Pramod and also Neha again, which is, what are some new competencies that you are looking for from teachers, or you are finding that teachers need to have during this time?
So if I can just quickly answer that, basically there were different kind of what we say professional development or teachers training every organization runs. But here all of a sudden we realize that the authoring tools are more important. People should know how to create material, how to edit a video, because you don't want a whole 10 minutes or 5-minute video to be played in the classroom. Your required video is only for say 30 seconds. So you need to cue that whole material. So a lot of authoring things, a better PPT presentation, how to mute, unmute, how to go into a call. If you have an unwanted person, how to remove them. So there's a lot of training which we have conducted, and I'm sure all schools are doing that to develop that skills. Yes, not only technology, but even related to subject-related trainings about creating a new content. Curating the contents which are already present, whether it's from Khan Academy or it's through any other open sources.
Great. And Neha, if you could add to that, I mean, either if there is anything more you want to say on competencies, but also in terms of how you gain these competencies, which is the other set of questions that's coming up on the Q&A. How does a teacher prepare for this?
Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, very rightly said by Mr. Pramod that technical skills are extremely important as of now. But like I even mentioned, being resourcefulness, I think, is a key competency here. So that itself covers a lot of skills, like I mentioned, selection, prioritizing, organizing, and execution. And that's how the cycle continues. And for that, I think being a learner, understanding that we cannot have that notion of, oh, we know it all just because we are teachers and we are educators, is extremely important. When we are ready to learn new things, we are ready to innovate, we are ready to try out new things, explore. That's how we'll be able to improve on those competencies, and we'll only be able to gain if we first accept that there's something that we need to learn, there's something that we don't know, and then look for how can we go ahead and gain those competencies. Now that can be through peer learning, it could be through attending webinars as they are being organized, because everybody these days are talking out of experience. And even when we are listening to these webinars, there's a lot that we are learning, because they come with years and years of experience, and that's like on-field experience. When you hear those things, that is really helpful, because that is directly related to what we are doing. And then obviously we have to try out those things. Trying exploring, playing with those things, and then improving each day, I think that's how we can go ahead and gain those competencies.
So Neha, if I were to push you a bit, and I'm also seeing the Q&A and the chat, you are obviously a super motivated teacher, and that is very, I mean, that's very obvious from the credentials you hold and so on. But if you were to take, and in every profession, you know, there are the super motivated people, there is the full range of average and so on. But if you were to take a person who is not as motivated as you, let's say, and they still have to, as a teacher, gain some of these competencies and operate in a new manner. Are there some very specific tips on how to gain these competencies? And I will also come to you, Jonali and Mansoor, on this one. Any tips on how to gain these competencies?
Okay, if I just may mention, I think the school management has to play a very, very important role in this, because the kind of support they provide in terms of training and even encouraging would really motivate those teachers to kind of go and try out new things, like I had mentioned, and we have been very, very lucky in that aspect. So we have regular trainings being organized for all the teachers, you know, the ones who are in need of basic training and even the ones who are in need of maybe the advanced trainings. Also, hand-holding by the peers would do wonders, because then you're learning from one of your own fraternity. So that would really be helpful, because they will be able to guide you exactly, you know, they would tell you exactly where the shoe pinches, because they know the nuances of the classroom teaching and the nuances of your subjects. So then probably observing your peers, discussing things with your peers, maybe with your mentors, that's how you can get motivated, looking for these wonderful credentials and wonderful professional development courses that we have, like the ones Center offers, and there are many other things as well. So I think undergoing some of these trainings is what is going to help. That's what I feel.
Sure, sure. Janali, any tips from you as a school leader on how you are gearing up your teachers for this new hybrid model that all of you seem to foresee? And I'll come back to Mansoor with the same question.
Well, see, this whole thing, if you imagine that one new school will come and then they will go off all of a sudden from offline to online, it is very difficult, because handling the device itself is, you know, you need to have internet connections. These all logistical things are already there. But having said that, a teacher is a teacher. He is online or offline, teacher is a teacher. Suppose you are a very dedicated teacher, so you know you have your own lesson plan. In your lesson plan, you have to use your videos. Even if you are in offline, you are in classroom, you have to use the video. You have to engage students with peer learning, peer assessment. Then you have to understand about the MCQs. That all can be done in classroom, offline and online both. It depends on the teacher, what the teachers are doing, how the teachers are doing, and what kind of subject we are teaching. Say, suppose, for example, we are teaching math. In teaching math, you need a lot of handholding, because teaching math is a subject where you know, the student, they will be having in every step, they have got some problem. But if you talk about, suppose in an event, suppose you talk about history. Now, when you talk about history, a subject where, suppose you are talking about Sepoy Mutiny. Once you talk about the Sepoy Mutiny, you go on progressing the sequence of the Sepoy Mutiny. And it becomes sometimes, it becomes very easy for the students to understand, even only by listening what they are saying, also in some videos. But it depends on the subject, it depends on the teachers, it depends on the students, it depends also on the place where the school is situated. So that is one thing. We have got different lots of variables to handle, and that's why the teacher's job is not simply a job like others. Teachers are actually knowledge workers, number one. Number two is that teachers need to update every time, every day. That is second point. Third point is that management have to be very helpful with the help of, to help the teachers. Like, in a year, suppose CBSE is saying that we have to, you have to organize the training at least 7 days in a year. That is compulsory. But apart from that, any teacher who are dedicated, who are hardworking, who are sincere, they can easily take many trainings which is available in different platforms. Say, for example, we have LinkedIn Learning that is giving very free of cost, very nice videos. Yesterday, when even I was trying to understand the whole situation, what we are going to talk about today, I was in fact trying to get some training from the LinkedIn videos, and I have got very good video regarding the classroom management. I do know about the classroom management, but still, when you touch up something with the organized learning, it definitely helps. So that way, we have got many videos, many other platforms. Even if school is also organizing many other things, but right at this moment, what I feel is that you have to handhold each and every teacher as management, and you have to give series of instructions. That's what I am doing with my teachers, my set of teachers, and different instruction at different moment. And also you have to see the progress of learning. So you have to call some parents, you have to call some students, try to understand what is happening, how they are learning. So it's a very handhold and very rigorous process, because usually in school we are in a very comfortable position, but in online, I think we have to handle each and every one. We must know each parent, we must know each child, we must know each teachers, so that at least the learning can be progressed.
Yeah,
that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very, I mean, you've given a very practical set of tips, which is that one is that it is very context specific, it is very subject specific. And what I'm taking away from all of what Pramod, Neha, and you are saying is that there is one set of skills around technology, and there is also one set of skills which are related to the subject and pedagogy, which need to be in some ways relearned or adapted for this new scenario. And how does one make learning as interactive as possible within this medium, whether it is maths, whether it is history, whatever. And with that, let me come to Mansoor. As someone again working with thousands of teachers, what is the structured mechanism that as a school management by which you are able to build competencies that are needed in a large number of teachers in your situation?
Yeah. First of all, what we have experienced is with the large number of teachers we've got, first we need to we had teachers like from various technological backgrounds. Some were very good in technology, some were absolutely not realizing, and some of them did not know technology. Again, some of them were digitally born teachers, some were digitally converted teachers. So we had, and when online for a organization or institution, when you get into online teaching platform, there has to be standardization. Okay, so when we had to get the standardization, learning outcomes and everything to a particular standard, what we want, because the first 1 month so far we've experienced. So we've had some teachers really doing excellently well, some teachers really working hard and learning. It's like like your hand, all fingers are not the same. So we are trying to make a proper balance and this thing. So in this regard, we've had a lot of training sessions, workshops. We've given them a lot of, if some teachers have been assigned some lead teachers who are taking sessions other than the normal working hours. And one very important aspect, what we've been trying to do is, we've been asking our parents to join us in this endeavor and be patient towards the teachers. Because sometimes what happens, all teachers may have that knowledge, but they may not have that creativity to impart it online. They may be an excellent teacher in the classroom situation, but they may not be able to come out on an online platform and express themselves. And also what we have been observing, especially in a few situations where when the teacher is constantly watched by the parent, so there is a lot of pressure on the teacher. So we have been asking parents also, because this is a school is not only about student and teacher, it is also got to do with the parents. So in the interest of the child, to maintain that relationship between the teacher and the child, the teacher should not be pressured, because some teachers are confident, technology very good, their pronunciation, vocabulary may be excellent. Some teacher may not have that confidence when others are watching, or may change her style of. So that has been a very big challenge for us. So we have been appealing to our parents to be a little patient with this new system, because it's some of them have been using online classes, and so it is a very important part that we have been asking our parents also to, and we've been getting a constant feedback on what, and there's a tremendous improvement. Because what I have felt that in this pandemic challenge, we always say we appreciate and we all, which is we have to do, our nurses, doctors, policemen, and I would also call the teachers our COVID warriors, because they are keeping they're doing a very, very Herculean task, because the schools are shut, the children are at home. So as management, we are trying as much as possible, giving the tools to the teachers, the freedom and resources of what they want, and trying to improve their connectivity. Let it be, we have given the option, if teachers want to have come to our data center and conduct classes, or if they're conducting classes from home. Because one more very important problem for the teachers is the connectivity and the systems at home. Because what usually happens, you may be a brilliant teacher, but your connectivity is not good enough. Your audio is not working fine. Your data package is not good. So as a management, we've been trying to give that support to the teachers. So it becomes very important for the management. See, I'm sure, I'm very confident that the teachers will come up to this challenge. But we as a management, we have to create that atmosphere, the data infrastructure for them to function. And this has been our experience. And finally, what and I personally feel that as a management, we should give one more month to see what the learning outcomes will be from this online teaching, how the students would have understood, how the final, because finally it is it will take another month or so to confidently say, yes, the transition, for at least the temporary transition, has been successful.
No, very well said, Mansoor. And I'm also seeing, related to what you said, a bunch of people asking about. Sorry, Pramod, why don't you come in? I'll add up.
Yeah. Just want to add a little more point what Mr. Mansoor has said. Now the classroom has gone beyond the classrooms, and it's actually a family learning. I have a huge collection of material when we say that we are doing a yoga class for a child, and we see the grandparents and the mother and a father, all of them sitting together and then doing yoga. We have a wonderful experience where the grandparents have said that, can I share a story in the circle time? So it also gives us an opportunity where there's a lot of contribution from people, those who are coming from other side, who are always looking school from a one perspective, that what teacher is doing. But now they understand what actually teacher is doing on a ground level. Beside this, they are appreciating, a lot of parents are appreciating about the efforts which teachers are putting, and they're also trying to understand the teacher's life, that when one child managing in a home becomes so difficult, this teacher manages 25 to 30 students in one classroom.
Yeah, and I just want to come back to that thought, Pramod, in fact, in a minute. But before that, just to wrap up this one part of the panel, which is related to the competencies of teachers and the quality of education that can happen online. I think many people have asked further questions on whether we see the quality of education being sustained, and there are variants of that on how does it work in pre-primary, can history be made more interactive, can extracurriculars be done, etc., etc. I think we will not have the time to go into each of these pieces, but what I'm hearing broadly from the panelists, if I were to summarize, is that of course all of us started this because of not having a choice. I think that's the first thing I'm hearing. At the same time, after starting, I think all the schools are finding that there are certain things that can be done well in an online medium, and therefore the panelists are expecting that some part of this will continue post-COVID, whereas some parts of it might go back to the physical medium, and therefore we might be looking at a hybrid or a blended kind of model. And I think all the panelists also talked about the new competencies that teachers would need to gain whether it is related to technology, whether it is related to specific pedagogical practices, whether it is related to small things like connectivity, audio, video being available, etc., etc. And in the online chat, I'm also seeing someone who has talked about teachers being often camera shy, and should that be part of some of these trainings? And that's a very good observation. And yes, absolutely. So in fact, communication in an online environment is usually an important part, I'm sure, of many of your trainings. In fact, as Centa, we are also doing this sort of 5-week course on rapidly allowing teachers to make the transition to online, where I think broadly it covers the same set of technology, pedagogical practices, communication. So I think that's the level at which we'll probably wrap this piece and move to the second part of this panel, which is the career of the teacher going forward. And there are already some comments on the uncertainty that teachers are facing, the concern about how their careers are going to look going ahead. And I want to start with the thought that you gave, Pramod, which is that parents are suddenly getting more visibility to the life of the teacher. So how is that from a school's point of view? Are you becoming, therefore, also more recognizing of the teacher's efforts? And of course, you are on this panel because you are already doing a bunch of best practices. So when I say you, it's not necessarily your school, but schools which may, other schools. Do you feel that they are becoming more recognizing of the teacher's efforts because of the involvement of parents? How do you see that dynamic playing out in this new world?
So yes, now the learning is not just to a child, it's to a family. And a lot of families, a lot of people from the families, they are attending classes along with the child. They are trying to see how things happen. They are supporting to different organizations in terms of that how teachers are trying to do their best in the given situation. At the same time, what we see is the teacher has geared up themselves into a very new role, and the future of teaching is very bright in the days to come. Because till this time, if you go by the data, in terms of a quality education, we are still to a very limited segment of people. We have a demarcation of line, something called a private schools and public schools. And even there is a huge population in India itself, not alone in India, almost in many of the developing countries, where students do not get a chance even to visit to a school. The school dropout numbers are high. Now, this is giving an option to teachers that if you develop your skills, then the world is open to you. You can teach to a student who is sitting in US or who's sitting in Kazakhstan or Australia, and not only just tuition, to a regular kind of a system. I remember one of the eminent scholars from IIT Kanpur, when we was talking to the professor, and he said, Professor Pant said that in the days to come, teachers will charge their professional fees. You will not be able to afford good teachers on salaries, the way we have musicians and singers. Good teachers will say, I will charge this much amount for 1 hour. And you will be pleased to offer that because you will not have a choice. And that's what I'm saying. This is one of the good area. If people work it out well, if they upgrade their skills and they understand a situation, then teaching is going to have a very different kind of a dynamics and what we say a new normal, because normal is no more accepted. So a new normal, which is emerging in front of all of us, is with a lot of opportunity, lot of possibilities, and a big window, not a window, a whole area, a galaxy is open to you in terms of teaching and learning.
Great. No, thank you very much. That's a very, very inspiring thought. And the fact that your career as a teacher can actually open up tremendously in this new normal, and there are many opportunities that could be coming up. And on this one, want to bring in each of Mansoor, Jonali and Neha. Sorry for the mispronunciation, Mansoor, Jonali and Neha. I want to bring in each of you on how do you see the career of the teacher panning out?
See, I foresee every dark cloud has a silver lining. And as far as education is concerned, I specifically go to India and then to the world. And as I agree with Mr. Pramod, what he said about teachers, and what has actually happened, it's been this thing. The teachers have emerged as one of the heroes of this whole pandemic, at least in India, what I see. Because we have been a country where we have always undervalued the contribution of the teacher, even the salaries and payments what we give our teachers, we have been very indifferent, not enough. And if you see, every other profession which is created is because of the teachers. But let it be, as a society, we have so far not done enough appreciation for our teachers. And I think the time has come. And in this pandemic situation, which unlocked a huge potential, where India is a country where we face a huge shortage of teachers. So this gives an extra additional avenue where we could, if we get our infrastructure proper and reach out to different segments of the society which are not having the means of education. Our teachers now, let it be a big center like the metros or the smaller district headquarters, the taluk headquarters, all are looking at online. So no more, online is not an alien word anymore. So with a good teacher or a good institution or the willingness of the government can really take this whole route in a very, very, we can see it as a silver lining for the primary education and the secondary education. And why I say primary education is because unless and until you don't get your primary education in shape, where in India, let it be the central government or state governments have not achieved the desirable targets. So this is the right opportunity, and teachers, a good teacher has endless opportunities today. So suddenly I think this has put the teaching profession on forefront, along like for how what the doctors are doing today, like what the policemen are doing, or any other COVID warrior are doing right in front line. So the teachers are right at that point. And today and through your medium, I'm requesting the society, teachers are doing a fantastic job. They are the backbone of the Indian society, the Indian future, and the children of the future of India or the globe. So please, my request is give them their due. And I know our teachers will, because what I've seen this last 1.5 months, they have risen up to the challenge fantastically well, and I'm sure they will do that job. And they are also the superheroes of our country in this crisis.
Wonderful, Mansoor. And I also saw a passionate write-up by someone called Rupan Khosla on the chat, saying more or less what you're saying about how teachers are COVID warriors along with the medical fraternity and others. And Mansoor, I want to ask a provocative question from someone called Elizabeth Koshi. If teachers go out on their own, what happens for independent teaching? What happens to the school, and how do you view that as a leader in this sector?
See, tomorrow, teaching cannot be just restricted to an institution. A good teacher within the parameters and the framework set up and the guidelines set about by the government has every right to impart education. So in the interest of the institution should be encouraging quality teachers coming out of the system time and continuously. And any person who has that talent and wants to and feels in a particular system that they can go out and do much better, they should be encouraged. And that's in fact good for the whole society and the country. So I think if anybody having the conviction and that they can go out and do better in the system, they definitely should go out and do that.
No, thank you very much. And I think what you articulated is the in some ways the market-driven approach, which many professions have benefited from. And this is probably the moment when teaching as a profession can benefit from a similar approach, and high quality teachers may have no limitations for what their career can be. And obviously, if a school really values them, the school will convey that value appropriately.
Yeah.
So and maybe Janali and Neha on the same one. How do you see teaching careers shaping up due to this situation?
Well, see this whole thing now. Teachers, I think teachers have realized that they need to work very hard, offline, online. So they will brush up their whole, their capacity, their skill set, their understanding. That the basic idea is there that teacher knows that they are expert in the subjects. They are already they are very much comfortable that they can teach well. But how they should teach so that their teaching should go inside the brain of the student. So the challenge here is, you as a teacher, you are a very expert teacher. But when you talk about how you are going to teach, what to teach and how to teach. So the teachers now, they will be understanding how to teach. So they will try to, first thing, they will first complete their degree, what I feel is most essential. The secondly, they will try to work more on skill sets. Now, when we talk about the skill sets, it is about how to teach. So that is one thing. Second thing is that there will be always a school's value is, now I think that everyone has understood about the value of the school, because almost all parents have acknowledged that we cannot take care of our child, we cannot take care of our children anymore, because every school is dealing 3,000, 2,000 children, and we don't have any problem. But when it goes back to the family, they are only dealing two, three parents, children, and that becomes very difficult. So there is an organized system. That means there is an organized system, and that organized system is the school. So in this organization, nobody can undermine the value of the school. So whatever the teacher is, he is very good teacher, very outstanding teacher, a C-grade teacher. Whatever the teacher is, the value of the school will always remain. And secondly, the position of the teachers is something very essential to the society. Just imagine, right after the doctors and the police, it is teachers. Nobody asks about taking the classes online. When we realized that the students are missing classes, right from April 1st, nobody was asking us. No government officials come in and say that, okay, start online. Almost all the schools have started online on WhatsApp, if not even Zoom, or it's not even Google Classroom. So just imagine the dedication of teachers. I think we all become the school teachers, or we all become the the manager, or the trustee. Is not because of only it's a profession. It's teaching is a profession. Teaching profession is compared with the profession of doctors. I often compare this analogy, like if doctor is helping students, then doctor is getting a patient for how many months? A pregnant woman only can be seen for 9 months. But we just imagine, we get the students from class nursery to class 12, entire growth, entire time, the whole childhood, in fact, early childhood, adolescence, we are the teachers who save them. So it's not about only teaching subjects, it's about teaching them the culture, the school culture, the society's culture, the value system, a strong human being. We look forward to teach students. Every teacher is carrying forward this message, I think, because it is about the passion. Because of that we teach. It's not only about the profession. Yes, if you are expert in profession, you will get the best of the best job. So if you are a best teacher, you will get the best job. That is always there. But it is always the passion which is so important that we sometimes forget. So it's because of the passion, it's because of the capacity, it's because of the entire system. I think teaching career will be more advanced. It will not lose people. Now we'll get more teacher, we'll get good teacher. And in fact, all the teachers, those who you can say that I have failed sometimes at one point of time, you can say that as being a management person, sometimes it is quite difficult for me to talk with each teacher and say that, okay, you have not done this, now you must be expert on such and such field. But right now, almost all the teachers, they have realized it. So that is a good point about it, I think.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Janali. And you brought in the role of the teacher as well as the role of the school together very well. And since we are just a few minutes away from wrapping up, I want to go to a question raised by both Janet Chowdhury and Harpreet Randhawa in different ways. And I'm going to address this to Neha, which is the whole thing about the individual brand of the teacher and the brand of the school. And I think Mansoor's comments have triggered off a couple of these questions, which is, so Neha, you are an interesting example. You come from a school which holds a significant brand in Varanasi, the Sunbeam schools. You also hold some brand as a teacher, with your CENTA certification and so on. So how does this work together? So how do you see this collaboration between the brand of the teacher and the brand of the school? And how can it be a powerful synergy rather than a conflict?
I think it all depends upon what your priorities are as a teacher individually and how supportive your school management is. So in that aspect, I think I have been immensely lucky that the school management at Sunbeam has been immensely supportive of all the teachers. So we have been blessed with everything, the freedom to explore, to experiment, to try out new things. So they have always been supportive of all of things. And then they have been supporting our trainings as well, ensuring that all the teachers are comfortable and they move ahead, just not, for their own thing. The personal and professional growth of the teachers is also being taken care of in a very, very good way. So when you have that kind of support, which is also, taking care of the emotional well-being of the teachers and the professional growth of the teachers, I think they leave us with no reason to have any kind of conflict. So for that, I think both the parties here, the teachers as well as the school management, need to take steps towards each other. It cannot be just the responsibility of one of them, right? So if the teacher needs to understand that it's not just the teacher alone, it's obviously the school system also that's backing up the teacher, because where else did that get that kind of motivation and that support? It's the school system which has been backing up the teachers. Also, the school management knows that it's the teachers who are basically going on field and doing the work, right? So it's both ways. And when we work as a team, that's when we emerge victorious. So I think synergy, peace, and harmony is any which way is needed in the world, whether it's the education sector or elsewhere. So why not, when we are kind of shouldering the responsibilities of, grooming the young minds, we need to be mature enough to understand that we need to be following what we preach. So we need to be careful about our own intentions, our own actions, and make sure that we do kind of demonstrate the teamwork skills that we kind of ask our students to do so.
No, thank you very much, Neha. Thank you very much for those inspiring words. And we have to wrap up the session now. And I'm just going to ask for one last word from Pramod, as what would be your advice to a young teacher today? And I think, Pramod, you have been trying to say something else as well. So depending on
I'll just wrap up with the future of schools. So I think there's hundreds and thousands of people, those who are into education, are already here online listening. But then the fact is, in the days to come, right now what we have is 100% student come to school all 210 working days. In the days to come, child will come only for emotional connect, for games. For learning, they will stay back home for rest of the week and they will do learning back home. But yes, nothing to worry for the management, because the capacity will go 3-4 times. Right now, if you have 1,000 in one building, so you can accommodate 5 days, 5,000 people. So the total dynamics of education is going to change. To my fellow teachers, I have been teaching for years into a classroom, and still I believe that I'm a teacher. And to everyone, keep learning. I think Janali ma'am has said that the leaders has to set example. If you are learning, if you are continuously upgrading your skill, then only you are in a market. Otherwise, you'll become an average person. So continue learning, continue upgrading your skills with the time. And that's the key factor which will decide whether you are the teacher of a campus or you are just a teacher.
Thank you so much, Pramod. I think you summarized the entire panel. There is no need for any additional summary from me. So I'm simply going to thank everyone, Mansoor, Pramod, Janali, Neha, for being with us today. And thank you very much to the very, very interactive audience. Apologies that we could not take all your questions. We tried to take as many as we could. Thank you so much.
Thank you.